The Sri Lankan military came in for mega praise today from the families of a batch of quarantine students from Colombo who spent 14 days at the Army's facility in Diyatalawa. Family members as well as the quarantine returnees commended the professionalism of country's military personnel, labelling them a source of national pride for the selfless service provided to all arrivals in the country in the face of the COVID-19 threat. AdaDerana's Indeewari Amuwatte met with them on their
A group of 64 traveled to Colombo just today after completing their mandatory quarantine process at the Diyatalawa Military Quarantine Center. And I'm here to speak to as much as I can to find out how the process was, how the facility was, and how they have been during their 14 days of isolation. Of course, out of the 64, 16 are students, Sri Lankan students who traveled on the 15th and remained at the Diyatalawa Quarantine Center for a period of 14 days, and the rest of the 48 include Sri Lankans as well as foreign nationals and expatriates who are working in Sri Lanka and their families who are reuniting with the rest of the family here in Colombo.
When you reach there, I didn't expect much, to be honest, but I had my own room and decent toilet and all those facilities. I can't complain, really. The army was very supportive of us. They really made us feel at home, and the 14 days went by pretty fast.
Luckily, I was traveling with a group of friends, but even as a whole, we were all a bit anxious about going into quarantine. We didn't really know what to expect. We were a bit worried. The whole situation around the world was quite scary, so naturally we were all a bit really worried. But once we got here, it was really organized. I think compared to other countries, Sri Lanka is doing really well in that sense.
We were first very tired because it's been a long flight, and we didn't want to go into quarantine, obviously, but once we got there, the military took really good care of us, and also my housemates. This is not something you usually go through. I mean, you can always have a bad experience, but they really took very good care of us, and I'm very grateful to be a Sri Lankan citizen because the army was absolutely excellent with what they did.
Your period alone, describe that to me. I'd like to hear about it because especially because there was a lot of fear surrounding this.
The main thing about quarantine is you keep yourself busy. Fortunately, they gave us internet and a lot of other things to do. We were mostly exercising, playing games around the house. In my case, I learned yoga from a person I was staying with. I actually can leave quarantine saying I learned a lot of new things.
The army, they looked after us really well. They made sure that we had everything we needed. They called us every day, checked up on us. Even the doctor called us every day, checked up on us, and our temperature was checked each and every day. Whatever we needed, anything, even if it was basic necessities, they made sure that we had it. I mean, we were really scared at first, but we met new people, we interacted.
As soon as I landed in Sri Lanka, there was such a systematic manner where straight from the airport we were taken to a place where our luggage was disinfected, we were disinfected, our temperatures were taken, health forms were filled. So I knew Sri Lanka was already on the ball and we're doing a tremendous job in trying to tackle COVID-19 here. Honestly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Army and all the forces for their impeccable service. Even when we were taken to the Diyatalawa camp, every day they would check up on us. They had given us so many supplies of biscuit, water. There was no shortcomings at all from their end. They were very welcoming to me.
14 days with the military and what they have done. What's your story?
The military, in my personal experience, has been exemplary in their service. They've been so accommodating to all of our needs. From every single person we've encountered, from the medical corps who used to check our temperature every morning, to the army officers in charge of bringing us our meals every day, to the brigadiers that checked up on us regularly. They've all been absolutely respectful and decent, and we couldn't have asked for anything more. And I don't really have any words to describe how thankful I am to them. They've done an amazing job. And I think the pandemic in Sri Lanka would have been a lot more drastic if it wasn't for the military and their services. So I think they deserve a lot more credit than we give them right now.
What does parents feel like when their children are taken to quarantine? Yes, this is necessary. It has been made mandatory, especially to curb and contain the outbreak and to take all possible public safety measures. I'd like to speak to a parent. Your daughter arrived in Sri Lanka from the UK and was sent into quarantine.
To be very honest, I was very worried, especially for a girl to be away from home, relatives, parents. 14 days is a long time. So I had my doubts, I might say, but today I like to say that it's an amazing job they've done. I think in this scenario, we are far ahead compared to other countries.
We're sending a message to the rest of the world. From wartime to now, the military has been there at every given time, at every calamity, at every crisis. But this is a new form of a crisis coming in the form of a virus, a health crisis, a global pandemic. But the Sri Lankan military is at the forefront.
So after we won the war in 2009, up to this date, we still have things that we hear against our forces, especially the army. I mean, if we didn't have an army like this in our country, I don't know how we would fight a situation like this. I mean, the steps that they took far ahead from other countries. After everything settles down, this is a big eye-opener for the entire world. Up to this day, they're still talking about war crimes. It's time that the whole world open their eyes on this matter. This may not be the time to talk about this, but as a nation, we have to be proud of it.
They were safe, very well looked after, and we're very, very grateful to the government of Sri Lanka and very proud to be a Sri Lankan.
My daughter arrived from the UK on the 16th of March, and the authorities decided on that day that everyone who was arriving from the UK was to be quarantined. And I think actually it was the ideal decision in the interest of the children and everyone else, society at large. It was difficult for us because we didn't know what to expect, neither did the children. But when they got there, the feedback that we got was very positive, and I must say that as parents, we are eternally grateful to the forces and the army commander. Everyone there had done their absolute best, 200% in making sure that the kids were safe, well taken care of, well fed. The quarantine procedure itself, I think in this situation when the entire world is in a crisis, it's important that everyone take responsibility and go into quarantine. There is nothing to be ashamed of. It's for the greater good of society and our country, our Sri Lanka.
Initially, we were a bit upset when we got to know that they are sending to quarantine. But from the first day, we got very good news because they said, Ammi, they are treating us very well, look after us very well. As a nation, we are very lucky, we are very fortunate to have this kind of people in this country.
At that moment, it was very sad and depressing to let him go. But I think it's a good thing because now we know that he's safe. You know, he got out of it safely. So he's okay to be among other people.
What have you heard from your son so far?
Well, I think initially the anxiety of going off to a quarantine camp was rather stressful. But it soon became apparent that the care and attention given by the army and all of those people supporting the quarantine passengers was outstanding. I think the care, the attention and the desire to make people comfortable. I don't think anybody enjoys quarantine, but certainly I think speaking to my son and speaking to others, I think people can be assured that their comfort, their well-being is being put as a priority. Yeah.
As an expatriate here in Sri Lanka, you've been probably hearing and observing how Sri Lanka is managing this situation.
The measures have been quite severe, however consistent, and I think obviously there are various ways to deal with or to approach this situation that we're faced with. But certainly the well-being and trying to restrain the spread of the virus has been the priority of the government. And I think, people going on quarantine, social distancing, and all the different precautions we can take will certainly prevent the spread of this virus.
I must actually really commend the armed forces for what they're doing today. We owe a lot to them. The care under such a situation to take care of so many people at one time, and as in not only at this particular camp but all the other camps, I think we owe it a lot to the armed forces, as well as the other people who are the medical staff and the essential services people. I should not forget to mention the police as well as the other 3 armed forces. They've been doing a pretty good job. So I wish all the best for all Sri Lankans and all of us, that we will actually get through this